Hello and welcome to Innovative FM, the podcast where we sit down and chat with prominent creators and talent within the Machinima community. Today's guest is none other than RedSentimentFilms. With a channel closing in on 7,000 subscribers, over 90 videos accumulating 900,000 video views, RedSentiment really has established himself in the community like few have, creating an actual fan base that keeps coming back to his channel. Today we will be discussing his start and where he intends to take the channel from here. Red, it's awesome to have you on the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a pretty good morning. How have you been?
Good. Just living life, I guess.
Sounds good.
We kind of talked about off screen, kind of like what's going on with us already, and so it's kind of funny to always jump into now an audio file and try and act like we didn't talk for about 10 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, I guess it's not a bad habit. It's just a habit of mine where if anyone ever asks me, how are you doing? My natural instinct is I always got to ask them how they're doing so that they know that I actually care about that. I'm not just like, oh yeah, let's focus about me and stuff like that.
But no, really, how are you? No.
Overall, I would say busy, but not too bad.
That's good, man. So kind of to start off here, I didn't want to go into the obvious question of really what got you into Machinima, because that seems like the question that everyone wants to ask when we start these kind of podcasts. But I'm really curious about that transition. So back in September of 2017, you uploaded what I assume is your first video, Master Chief and Halo Reach. Was that the actual spawn of your channel, and also what really decided you to start on this YouTube journey?
So what was it? That was kind of like the first video I ever actually posted on my RedSentimentFilms channel. I have a kind of just a personal channel where I just kind of comment on stuff. So I try to keep I guess personal and Machinima separate, so I can kind of, because I'm very political and stuff like that, so I don't want to mix politics with entertainment. So I posted one Machinima video on my original channel, and it was kind of it wasn't really anything big. I think I have the video saved. Maybe I can post it one day, but it was just kind of a really short, simple video. And then after that, I was maybe I should keep my personal channel personal and then make another channel. So that's kind of what I guess led to me creating the RedSentimentFilms channel. Was I kind of wanted to make sure I keep things separate, so I'm not mixing too much, stuff like that. But oh wait, what was the other question you had? That was the first question.
Oh, the question was just what started on this YouTube journey about, and just it was just talking about the spawn of your channel right now, and I have follow-up question after that.
Okay,
if you want me to fall into that.
What was it?
I'm curious about that, because you started this new channel. You brought up the Master Chief video, and that was kind of the start of now RedSentimentFilms. You kind of went on this journey of now creating a Halo Reach matchmaking story time with, there was no actual, besides it was light dialogue, it was mostly a gameplay in a way. So what brought that transition to then go into the very next video being a comedy skit?
I think it's really just, I guess overall it's one of those things where I'm just I have so many ideas, and I'm just kind of just going with it. I don't know. I'm trying to think how to answer this question. It's one of those things where I'll start off with one thing, and then I'll start off with another thing, and then I'm well, I want to do this also. So then I move on to the next thing, and then, so I kind of like to, I guess, delve into comedy and horror and serious and adventure and things like that. Yeah, because
it feels like there was an actual progression here, though, because the Master Chief video had camera angles and it played like a Machinima. And then your follow-up video experimented more with dialogue and storytelling. But then you never really came back to storytelling. Right after that next video, you just went full force into comedy skits. So I just find that fascinating.
A lot of it has to do with... So I
Am I
don't know
throwing
what
you
it
off a
is.
bit here?
Well, it's like whenever I play Halo, I don't know how I always run into some of the craziest people in the game. Like, some people are just so extreme and so hostile towards me. I'm just like, I think I'm being nice. I hope I'm being nice. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but people, like, they're always like threatening me and stuff like that. I'm just like,
Jeez, man.
I guess this is just the Halo community in general, but so it hit a point where people were like just always like attacking me, and I was just like, fine, I'm just gonna make videos about it just to vent my frustration. So a lot of the videos I make that are kind of like more comedy skit are kind of based on me just being like frustrated with people, and I'm just making fun of them, simply put.
No, that's fair, but like you went into like a place where no one else like really did, which was you posted a new machinima every single week at some point. Like, credit to your work ethic. That created like that was a large reason that your channel grew. Like, how did you come to that conclusion that you were going to do weekly uploads? And also, is there really that much material when like what kind of lobbies are you going into with this? That you have this much material as far as like people going after you or like just weird things that are happening.
So, oh my gosh. So, I was talking to my college coach about this a few weeks ago, where I was telling him about how I don't know what it is, but I just have a really bad habit of running into some really crazy people. And I guess it's just as society continues to go in this weird direction, everyone's becoming more like tribalistic, so they're becoming like more hostile towards people. And I don't know what it is. I mean, sometimes I'll be controversial just so I can start conversation, but other times it's just like, I don't know. People just like find me. I meet some really crazy people. I was telling I was telling my girlfriend the other day, and she was just like, where do you meet all these people? I've never met anyone like this. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just find them. So, I mean, there's just like so much I can come up with as far as like videos go. But what was it? Oh yeah, it's when it comes to I guess like the reason why I was posting videos so often, I'm trying to think back. Gosh, that was so long ago. I liked just being consistent, I guess. I mean, there was like so much I could come up with during that time. So I was just like, hey, I'll just make this, I'll make this, I'll make this. And eventually it hit a point where I was making so many videos, I was like, I guess I'll just post once every Wednesday and Saturday. And so I was able to post so many videos consistently. But after a while, it hit a point where I was having to move on to like one video every Saturday because like work got busy, school got busy, life got busy. So back then when I was posting like 2 videos a week, a lot of it was so much easier because I had like almost nothing on my plate. Like what was it? I had left one of my jobs and was focusing solely on school, and it hit a point where I had so much extra time. I was just like, well, shoot, I guess I'll invest all this time in making more videos. So I don't remember why I wanted to be as consistent as I was. I think it was really just I was having so much fun doing it that I just kept doing it. So, I mean, people enjoy the videos, but for me at the same time, it's like it's just kind of fun to see my ideas come to life and to see the things that I can create and come up with.
Like, so was there ever a point like toward the end of you actually doing those consistent uploads, did there come a point where you felt you were almost required to do a new upload every week, and it wasn't like a necessarily you had the creative push for it, but it was that you felt that your audience was owed it at some point, maybe? Or did you just were able to just move on from it and say, yep, this is what I'm doing?
You ask such deep and meaningful questions. I like that. It's a good question.
I try.
It's good. I respect people that can think. I guess, I mean, for a while there kind of was a point where I was like, I feel like I have to do this. But then it kind of hit a point where I was just like, I'm really busy and I think they'll understand. And when I told everyone, I was like, hey, I'm not going to do Wednesday videos anymore. Everyone was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Just keep making videos. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of nice because what really helps is just my audience seems to be so like understanding. They're like, oh, yeah, you know, we go to school, we work, we have lives. We understand what it's like to be busy. So that's kind of convenient. It's really nice when my audience is pretty understanding. Like every once in a while I have like, I guess like 1, 2, 3 people who are just like, bro, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Make more videos. But, you know, it's like, I'm not going to get like too upset if like 20 out of like 6,000 people are like panicking or anything like that, you know?
Right. So, like we mentioned this a little earlier. This is kind of a transition question because like you have gained a substantial audience. I mean, 7,000 subscribers as quickly as you did. You're almost at 1 million views on your channel. And one of those most popular videos has now reached 110,000 views, which is your cheating Halo player. And even its sequel is closing in at 65,000. What do you think drew your audience and outside people in YouTube to this short, like, besides others?
So, like, I think I kind of noticed when I started getting, I guess, like, traction. And I think it's why, like, most YouTubers will take advantage of opportunities and things like that. Like, what's a good example? Kind of like that. Who was that one guy who was like, he was like a YouTuber. It's like, he's kind of like a cocky blonde-headed guy. I can't remember his name, but he went to some like suicide forest in Japan like several years ago.
Oh, Logan Paul.
Yeah, Logan Paul. That's the one. And it was like, I remember like lots of people were coming out and they were commenting about it and they were posting videos about it. And I watched how a lot of those people would go from like 3,000 subscribers to like 20,000 subscribers over, I don't know, like pretty much overnight, pretty much. So it's kind of the same thing with my channel. Like I didn't know about that until after it happened, but which video was it? Oh, it was the Black Friday video. So I posted a video on Black Friday and I think I posted it either on Saturday or Friday. I can't remember exactly, but when I posted it, I had done all the tags like Black Friday or Black and stuff like that. And after that, I started noticing that I started getting more traction. And I think what happened was it was almost like I hit the right tag and then everyone saw my video. And then because they kept seeing my video, YouTube noticed that and they threw me in like one of their algorithms where more people kind of like catch on and they start seeing everything. And so I think it was really just, I mean, for me, it was an accident, but overall, it's one of those things where some advice that I give a lot of the Machinima creators is try to take like advantage of like, I guess like pop culture things that are like going on during that time. Like, I don't know, post a video about Easter or Christmas or something like that. Or like kind of like a bigger thing. Like, I don't know, like everything's so political nowadays. It's hard to like mix entertainment without getting political. So, yeah, I mean, like if some crazy YouTuber does something crazy or silly or whatever, like, I don't know, make a funny video about it. And then you end up getting thrown into the algorithm and, YouTube will kind of help promote your channel a little more. So, yeah, it was pretty much an accident why that happened, but, I mean, it worked in my favor. So,
which I guess is good because now you're able to kind of you're at a weird point where you can almost post whatever, and like your past year, you almost like every single video gained over 1,000 views, which doesn't happen much in the community anymore with especially Halo Machinima. So it's quite an interesting dynamic. You're like I've watched your channel for a long time because there's a weird point in my life where I just watched every single Halo Machinima channel that came out to the point where I had a private channel which listed each group of the directors.
Yeah.
Like, and I put them into groups of like popular channels, what I called retired, and and just like listed them downward. And so it was interesting for you, like you did take advantage of that situation, which is awesome. But like even more than that, you were able to create a fan base that kept coming back, which that's what I felt was different, because we've had different channels come out there and have one really popular video and that was it, and then like it just drops off forever. And so what do you think is kind of that ticket to keeping that established community together? Because I haven't even, like your Discord for instance, there's not a lot of activity. There's activity once in a while, maybe when you post a video. So what do you think is like that ticket to that establishing that community?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think you were wondering where I was going with this.
I mean, you asked such really deep and meaningful questions. I'm just like, dang, you might as well go in a PhD or something. Yeah, I'm like, man, I probably should have like taken a bunch of fish oil before I started this. Wow, these are really good questions. I like them so much. It's a good question because like I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I'm a very analytical type of person where if something doesn't make sense to me, I have to like put it on a table and just kind of stare at it for a couple of hours and just constantly ask myself the same question. But I guess a lot of what I do is I try to base my art and style off of, I guess, like familiar machinimators. Because like, I mean, I guess like back in like 2010, I was always watching like Arby and the Chief and stuff like that. So I really didn't know a lot of these machinimators. Like Nightmare Films, I didn't know about him until like 2017. And I was like, what? This is such a good like series. And everyone was like, how did you not know about him? So as I started to progress in making machinima, I started watching a lot of these, I guess, like classic people I had never seen before. And I started trying to take elements from their videos to, I guess, like incorporate into like my videos and stuff like that. So some of it is that I try to do things that interest everyone. And then like a few times online, I've studied how to, I guess, like use visual effects to, I guess, like captivate people, you know, like one thing I do is I try not to go like 5 seconds without switching a scene, because I forgot where I read this. It was something along the lines of every 5 seconds you want to switch the scene because it like resets a person's brain in a sense. Like it's kind of like think of like a school lecture where you're staring at the professor and then like, I don't know, after like 5 minutes you've dozed off and somehow you're in Narnia inside your head. So it's kind of the same thing with like, I guess like with making videos, you have to figure out like the art of what helps people to, I guess, like stay art to, I guess, like keep their attention, you know? So like, yeah, like I forgot where I found this and I want to find it again so I could like share it with people, but it was like, you don't want to flip a scene every like second, but you don't want to flip a scene longer than 5 seconds, because when people keep staring at the same thing, that's why like I'm always telling people like use lots of camera angles. If you do that, it'll force you to change scenes every like 5 seconds. So sometimes if someone's talking, I'll show them, and if I pass like 5 seconds, I'll flip to the person they're talking to, and then after like 2 seconds I'll flip back to the person who's talking, so that the scene changes. And what that does is I forget like the science exactly, but it like resets a person's brain. So now they're like, oh, okay, the scene's changed, let me pay attention. And then it flips again, they're like, oh, okay, the scene's changed, let me pay attention again. So if you ever have like a scene where it's like running on for longer than a couple seconds and people are listening, they'll be like, okay, I don't need to watch, I can just listen and I'll still get the same message. So then over time they slowly start losing interest because they're just listening instead of looking. And like I've taken little key artsy I guess like techniques and applied them to my videos. So it's a combination of a lot of things, like trying to understand what works for some machinimators, and then trying to find other like techniques that people in Hollywood will use to help keep their audience attracted. So I guess for me, it's a lot of it has to do with, I guess, attracting people, trying to find ways that help captivate the audience and things like that.
Awesome. And like and a lot of that has to do you have been very consistent with content over the years. I mean, you've never let your channel die per se, like some channels do. They'll leave their channel out and then to hang out and dry, and then they'll come back like 2 years later expecting the same reaction. And so I think that's a testament to you, even through like all the ups and downs of your channel and through life. You've like consistently like always came back, and I think that's a testament to you. But even more so, like you're like I've noticed like you've been trying to branch out in a way, like a contrary to your normal comedy content. You have been working on this zombie series for like what 4 years now, and so like with this, like there's so many zombie machinimas out there, from Nightmares Running Dead to Dead Silent to even Last Man Standing. Even like, what makes that series that you've said that your script is almost perfect, you feel like you have taken out all the flaws? What makes it different than the other machinimas out there, and kind of what drew you to jumping into that genre specifically from comedy?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with well, I mean, like when it comes to Halo, it seems to be a pretty big thing. The like when it comes to an infection round, where it's people with shotguns versus zombies with swords. I think I kind of wanted to do something that was familiar to, I guess, like Halo in a sense. But what's been getting me lately is, ever since I saw, what was it, the I guess the sequel Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. The first time I saw, what was the first one? I can't remember. So the
Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens. Thank you.
Yeah.
I saw it, and I remember thinking to myself, "This is the greatest Star Wars movie I've ever seen. It's so great. It's so wonderful." And I was thinking about it. I was like, "Man, that was the best movie ever." And then I remember it came on TV one time, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Star Wars!" So I went and I sat down and I watched it for about like 3 minutes, and I remember thinking to myself, I am so bored, and I couldn't figure it out. I was so confused. I was like, why am I so bored? I'm watching Star Wars, for crying out loud. I mean, I'll watch like the originals or the prequels, and I'm in the movies. I'm like, wow, these are great, but I couldn't figure out why I didn't like the new Star Wars movies. It was like really like bothering me. So I went online and I started watching a bunch of like YouTube videos of like people talking about like why they didn't like the movies, and I was trying to figure out like, why don't I like the movies? So I stumbled upon this guy. You might have heard of him. He's a YouTuber. He's called The Critical Drinker, and I started watching a lot of his videos because apparently he's an actual author and he writes books. And when I started watching his videos, it was starting to make much more sense to me why the Star Wars movies weren't so good to me. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I started watching more of his videos where he would do things like break down Star Wars characters. And it started to make more sense to me that when it comes to stories, there has to be more than just story. There has to be things like character. Like character is like such a big thing in stories. And I feel like that's one thing a lot of movies are kind of like lacking on these days. It's like, it's kind of the message, like what does this character represent? And that's kind of why I've been drifting more towards like anime and stuff like that, because it's like whenever I watch anime, it's like, what's the message? Friendship is great. And it's like, oh, okay, well that's a pretty good message. I mean, who doesn't want to encourage, friendship and camaraderie and things like that? So I started studying, I guess I always feel weird saying studying YouTubers and stuff like that, but I was watching all of his videos and it kind of made more sense to me. So when I started watching all of my older videos, I noticed that the characters have to, like, take the cheating Halo player video. one thing I always got grief from the audience was, why didn't they turn off the console? And I was like, well, technically there was a reason. I just didn't actually mention it in the video because I thought it was kind of obvious. But so I looked at that and I was like, well, technically that's my fault because I didn't make it clear to my audience why my characters didn't turn off the console or why didn't they leave. So I started learning more about like ambition or like motivation, things like that. It's like, so your character's doing this. Why? And that's stuff you need to portray to your audience. You have to make sure that your audience knows why people are doing what they do. And I mean, I'll try not to roast too much on Star Wars The Last Jedi, but it's kind of my best example when it comes to why I have issues with things. Like take what was it, in The Last Jedi, that pink-haired lady, I think Holdo, I think that was her name. She
yeah.
It was like there was that part where Poe, he was like, do you have a plan? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you. I have a plan and stuff like that. And it was like, the whole time I was like, well, it makes sense that he would go rogue because you have this person who's basically saying, we're on a sinking ship. I have a plan. The ship continues to sink. I have a plan. The ship is like almost completely underwater. I have a plan. And then sooner or later, it's like, okay, maybe you don't have a plan. So it was like, when you look at stuff like that, it's like, so what's the message you should take away from this? Blindly follow your leaders, even if it looks like the ship is sinking. And it's like I hate to make this comparison, but I'm like, that's kind of what happened in Nazi Germany with like the Germans. It was like, blindly follow your leaders, don't ask questions. And I was just like, that's a terrible message to send people. So I mean, the more I look at these things, what I think would make my videos so much better is I try to focus so heavily on character. So I mean, they do have the virus, they do have the zombies, they do have this issue that they're addressing, but I try to make sure that when it comes to like characters, I try to make sure that they have strengths, they have weaknesses, you understand their motivation. So like, why are you motivated to do this? And you have like a legitimate lesson that can be I guess like something that you can learn that actually makes sense. So it's not something like blindly follow the government even if they're like killing innocent people. It's something more like sometimes if you shut out people, you can miss the opportunity for when good people come along or things like that. So I've pretty much watching The Critical Drinker, I've kind of picked up a lot of that, like how you write good characters and stuff like that and what motivates them. So one of the reasons why it's been taking me so long to write this script is because I've been watching his videos throughout the year, and then on top of just, life obligations, I've slowly been figuring out what actually makes stories good and what makes characters good. So it's kind of unfortunate it's taken so long, but the same script I had in 2018 is like probably 80% different than the script that I have now. So I'm like, yeah, it did take me a long time. It was kind of a bummer that it took so long, but I'm kind of glad that it did take me so long because now I'm like, wow, I changed this up, and I think the video or the script that I had back in 2018, if I had posted it, it would have been terrible. Like, it would have been, I guess, like good. It wouldn't have been great. It would have been a decent story. Like, oh, okay, yeah, they're fighting a virus, they're dealing with zombies, stuff like that. No big deal. But as I like progressed, I was like, wow, this story is like, it's really getting good. And the more I read, I'm just like, the motivation is so captivating. I'm just like, wow, I really like what I've actually like accomplished with this. So I guess like I think that's one thing that I've been trying to focus so heavily on when it comes to the zombie series is everyone has been making, and I don't want to be like, oh yeah, well mine's going to be better than theirs, but it's I think everyone brings to the table something unique about their own creativity. And for me, it's one, like modern movies nowadays, we've been so starved of like really good, well-written characters. So I've been trying to like work really hard on writing great characters that can be like something that inspires people. Like when people watch a movie, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to go reach out to my friends. I want to make sure that they're okay, or, you know, reach out to my family and try to fix some old broken bridges between people, or, you know, stuff like that. Because I feel like that's one thing that movies or shows should do. They should inspire people. It was like with the Avengers, after the first Avengers movie came out, I remember I had friends. They were I guess enrolling in like colleges to become engineers, and everyone was going to the gym, and everyone was eating what was that sandwich? Shawarma. It was like, I like how movies inspire people to do better in life, and that's kind of what I want my videos to do. So that's one thing I've been trying so hard to do, and I'm hoping that when I actually start like releasing my videos, I can do that for other people. People will watch the videos and they'll go out and they'll help other people, or they'll, you know, just be inspired to do better in life.
I'm trying to think of where to move from that, because that was a really long, good answer to an otherwise simple question.
Yeah, I was starting to lose my voice. I was like, I have so much more to say, but my voice is starting to break.
Well, like, so where do you think this project is going to land? Do you think it's going to be a production one that you launch following year? Do you think it's going to be far enough for the end of this year? Are you going to upload all the episodes together? Are you going to do it as they come? What's your plan for that?
So far, what I'm planning on doing is, even as we speak, not yesterday, but the day before, I was editing and filming for my zombie series. So it's definitely in the works now. Originally back then, it was like I would film it and then I would stop and be like, oh shoot, I gotta update the script and see if I can fix these things. But it's kind of hit a point where I feel that my script isn't going to go any further. So it's definitely going to be released. I want to say probably within like the next, like, I don't know, 2 to 3 months maybe. The reason why it's taking so long for me to do is because, holy cow, it is so long. I was like, oh shoot, this is really long. I wasn't expecting it to. It's like, so far, I want to say right now, I've probably got about 10 to 25 episodes that I can get out of it, and each one will be about 15 minutes long. So I was like,
that's wild.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of like in the, I guess like the beginning part of it. So that's what I'm filming right now, and I'm just like, are you
going to separate that into seasons, or is it just going to be season 1, 25 episodes?
Yeah, basically, simply put.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't think most people know about this. I've mentioned it a bit. The zombie series is just part 1 of part 2. So it's like, I won't say what part 2 is about, but part 2 will be kind of the conclusion of the entire story, and then part 1 is just the virus and everything from there. So yeah, it's definitely going to be pretty long. So I'm interested to see how it plays out.
So you're doing your own Dune thing here, where it's just like 25 episodes of exposition and understanding your universe, and then the second half is like the really in depth and going into a different direction. Yeah,
I guess. Well, thankfully, like, I've been trying to study like exposition more, because it's kind of like, what is it? A lot of people they're not too fond of excessive amounts of exposition. So I've been learning how to like, what was it? Like, what's the name? The Dark Knight. One thing I learned about watching The Dark Knight was what they'll do is they won't show you things that aren't necessary for the story. So it's like Batman comes down and he says, I'm going here, and then they shift, and it's like normally it would be like an 8-hour flight from point A to point B, but they just like jump scenes because they're just like, okay, well, everything in between that scene is kind of just unnecessary. We just need to know that Batman is leaving and then he's there. So for me, it's one of those things where as I read through my script, I'm just like, is what is being said here actually help push the story forward, or is it just unnecessary? And so I've been cutting out a lot of it, but it's also one of those things where it's like you kind of get everything at the beginning, and then people will just keep talking throughout the story. I hate when they do that. So what I've done is when you start the series, you're going to know absolutely nothing. So you basically just go in and you're with the main squad, and they don't know all of these things, and they're just slowly picking them up as they go. So almost, I guess, kind of like a Clue kind of story. Like, oh, here's a clue. It'll progress the story. So I'm trying to like understand exposition a lot more, because I hear a lot like how people are just like, oh gosh, here we go, more exposition. So I've been trying to understand how to add exposition without it being like a huge drag, but more in a way that will make people go, oh, okay, now I understand. I really wanted to know that kind of thing.
Nice. All right. Just off the cuff here, like, are you planning on voicing one of the main characters in it? Because you have a kind of a history of like every single one of your videos, like having you be the main voice. Or is this going to be something that you actually like venture out for and like find a voice cast?
Yeah, it's I guess like half and half. What is it? The Too Much Chatter videos. It's based off of that squad. So I pretty much took them all, and I just kind of like took them, broke them apart, and tried to like give them like a good story. But at the same time, I'm gonna have like other characters who show up and they kind of add more to the story. So I'm going to be voicing those characters, but I'm also going to be reaching out and I guess like getting people to kind of help like voice all the other like I guess like military elites and people like that to kind of help establish the story. Well, I mean, I really could, if I wanted to, voice all of the characters myself, but it's also one of those things where I think people kind of like having a like greater variety of voice for a lot of these stories. I also kind of like the idea of like reaching out to the community and kind of bringing them all in to kind of like help out here so that they can kind of I guess like, I don't know, one thing I really like about like the whole Machinima community is how everyone's kind of like connected in a way. Like everyone knows the people over here and everyone knows the people over there, and so for me, I kind of like the idea of just bringing the entire community together. So I would definitely reach out and try to have a lot of the people in the community voice for some of the characters in the video, just because, I don't know, I just like having everyone kind of like working together on, you know, stuff like this.
Yeah. And so switching gears here a bit, since we've been probably talking for about 15 minutes on just this one machinima, but it's like that's so fascinating because you've only mentioned it here and there in your announcement videos, so it's actually cool to actually get like an actual picture as to what that series is going to be. But like, you did something outside of your normal content, which in one of the most interesting cases in the past year, Halo Reach MCC changed male and female being labeled to heavy and light armor, with now the option of attaching male and female voice. You've spoken about how the female armor best represents you in the game, and so now 4 months from that video where you had your personal grievances with the matter, has your opinions changed at all, and what are your thoughts now that it's been solidified in MCC?
I mean, it's pretty much the same as it was back then. I try to keep an open mind to this stuff. That's why, what was it? When I made that video, I had like an argument and a counter argument, because I always hate being like biased. I guess it's one of those things where if I have an opinion, I always try to ask myself, okay, maybe I should try to look at this from another perspective, because maybe I'm wrong, you know, because I mean, how many people have actually been wrong ever? It's like everyone. So for me, it's I always try to make sure that I'm not biased. So I always like to talk to people that I feel like we would agree on nothing, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong about something. But overall with that, I feel like my opinion overall is pretty much the same. I haven't really felt like I've made any changes to my opinion. It's I don't know. I think it's kind of a weird thing that they chose to do, but I'm like 50-50 on whether or not I completely or disagree or agree with it. So that's just kind of whatever for me. I'm just like, well, I mean, they're in charge. I guess it's theirs. So I guess I don't really have much of a say.
Which, on a side note, I think it was at least the group of people that I was hanging with when we saw you actually post a video on it. It was actually, there's a bit of a excitement whether or not you went either way, because realistically, you are the most prominent machinima creator who does use the female type.
Yeah.
That it is male. And so, like, there is other people who use it, like GrumpyElite has used it in the past and a few others, but realistically, you have that a weird base that is able to come off that from that point. And so I just kind of wanted to mention that we were actually very curious to your point, and then when you actually made the video, it was like, oh, cool.
Well,
which
yeah, I actually had a funny story. It was like when I first started Machinima, I did it that way, playing as the female Spartan, because originally, I forgot what led to this. It was like I was talking with a friend, and I was like, well, back then I would like change my armor like all the time. Sometimes I would have like the Mark 6 helmet, or sometimes I would just use like ODST, because I didn't really like have like a set preference of armor. And then slowly over time I just picked something that I liked, and I think it was like I forgot to change from female to male, and then one of my friends was just like, I mean, realistically, you have a really small waist. Like, I don't know a guy who has a waist as small as yours. And I was like, well, I guess that's kind of true. And then I was just like, well, yeah, no, I guess I'll just keep it. And then I kept it. And it was funny because when I added it in my videos, there were like people who were like messaging me on Discord. I'll have to see if I can find those messages, but they were just like, "You're ruining Machinima." And I was like, why? I'm just doing one thing. It's not that big of a deal. At least I think it's not a big deal. And they were like so angry with me. I was so confused. I was like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal at all. Most people don't even notice it until I point it out. But I don't know. Some people took like serious issue.
Ruining Machinima. Like, can't believe you wearing a female armor set, or now a light armor set. How dare you ruin Machinima?
It's like so weird, but yeah, so
you're changing the entire game. No.
Yeah, like when they changed it, I was just like, I guess this is in my favor, because now people can't really complain. I mean, people complain about whatever they want.
But then you can't make the jokes now about being in female armor.
Oh yeah, so I had like saved probably like 20 to like 30 different individual jokes on the whole female armor thing, which I'm just like, oh well, I guess those jokes are now obsolete because of this change. So it has its pros and its cons.
Right. So, kind of like as we're wrapping up here, I kind of had a couple smaller questions. We talked about how you voice in every single one of your videos, and so I'm curious, is that out of an obligation in your head because this is you, or do you genuinely enjoy doing voice work, and would you consider doing voice work for other creators in the community?
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I love doing voice work. It's a lot of fun. I always try to find I guess like new ways to do things and whatnot. I mean, you have so many limitations with just your voice, but you can find new things. I voice acted in a couple other videos, some smaller creators here and there, but I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I always like seeing what I can create, because a lot of the weird voices that you see in some of my videos that I create, I'm just like, actually, I like that. That'll work. I'll use it. And I'm always like, it's funny. So I don't know. I'm 50-50. Sometimes I like asking people for help because I just like people with other, I don't know, voices to add and stuff like that. But I'm trying to keep my questions somewhat short because I feel like I can rant and rave about so much.
You don't
stuff.
have to at all. I'm like, this is a podcast because we're interested in you. I'm curious. I mean, you're able to rant 10 minutes about that one question that was I didn't think was as deep as it went. So you are totally fine to keep talking.
Well, that's why I really enjoy your questions, because I'm just like, wow, these are good questions. They like really get me thinking and they really get me talking. So I always like deep, meaningful questions. But yeah, I mean, as far as like voice actors go, sometimes I'll get voice actors and I'll be like, all right, so in this scene, I want you to go, oh no! And then they'll send me the line. They'll be like, oh no. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I was looking for. So, sometimes it's stuff like that. And sometimes I'll ask someone for lines and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll get them to you in 3 months. And I'm like, what are you doing in between then? I just want you to say like 5 things. It doesn't take that long. So it's a combination of things. Like for me, sometimes it's just easier to use my own voice. But I mean, if I can use other voices, I'll take that opportunity.
But to kind of wrap this up, I just want to know, is there anything in the pipeline for Red Sentiment Films? That we talked about your zombie series coming out in hopefully the next few months. Is there anything else that you want to promote? Is there anything that you're really excited for that is coming out? When should we expect Red Sentiment Films to return from its hiatus from now the Christmas special?
Oh gosh, I mean, I debate back and forth because I got a bunch of scripts that are just like sideline small stories that I can make and post, but at the same time I'm just like, maybe I should wait and focus all of my time and energy on the zombie series, that way I can get it out there quicker. But I don't know, it's hard because like there's so many videos I want to like post and make fun of. Like I think like 2 or 3 other videos that I've like made and I'm just kind of like hanging on to until I can start like mass producing again. But I don't know, it's really difficult because I'm like, if I start posting these like sideline stories, it'll happen where I probably post for like 2 months and then I disappear again while I'm trying to finish the zombie series. But I'm also like, well, I mean, if I just make the zombie series, then that's going to last me for like several months. And then in between that time, I can start writing on or focusing on part 2 of what comes after the zombie series. And then at the same time, I can also make like side stories. So I don't know, I'm like conflicted because I really want to get the zombie series done before anything. But at the same time, it's like, it's so long. But I'm just like, I know my audience will still be there even after. But I don't know. It's one of those things where I wish like I had no work, I had no school. Everyone left me alone for like 1 solid month, and all I did was just make the zombie series. Because
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, the joys of being an adult. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just like, when I think of the story in my head, I'm just like, wow, I am like really withholding something that I feel like would be really good, and I'm just like, I really got to get it out there. Because I mean, I'm like, man, I've been kind of mentioning the idea since like 2018. Now it's like 2022, and everyone's just like, we really want to know what you have. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I really want to share it with you. So I'm like, yeah, you might see something in the next couple months of me just posting some random videos here and there. But overall, I'm like, my main goal is to just get the zombie series done. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I've worked on a couple other side stories that'll have like part 1, part 2, part 3 and stuff like that. So even after like the zombie series and then part 2 of what comes after that, there will still be more things. Like I've worked on stories like more cheaters and like Halo. My brother's been coming up with some fun stories that he wants to write. He's read some of the stuff to me. I won't say anything, but I'm like, wow, that's red versus blue quality stuff right there. I'm just like, I don't predict any of this, but god dang it, is it funny. So there's definitely a lot I have in the works. So I mean, as soon as I get the zombie series done, it'll just be like probably continuous every single Saturday until like probably till 2023. Well, I need to start panicking and start making more stuff again.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up the podcast. We are running out of time on our meter. But Red, it was a pleasure to sit down and just talk with you on the Innovative FM podcast. I'm genuinely excited to see what comes of your channel in the future. In it all, what did you guys think of the episode, and who would you like us to interview next? Drop down in the comments section below, because we would love to hear your thoughts. And make sure to subscribe to Innovative Monitor and Red Sentiment Films using the links down in the description below. And until next time, I'll see you later.